Welcome back to the Calm Mind Podcast. I assume episode 37. What's up, Toby?
Hey, mate, it's good. This is kind of a weird one. This is a different one because where we would normally be live on the Calm Mind Podcast YouTube channel, we're actually over on my YouTube channel right now because I'm doing a charity stream this week, which is really cool and really exciting. It's going well so far.
Oh, nice.
Do you want to do the admino stuff?
Well, basically, again, for all you guys watching out there, you're either watching live or not live. Those are the only options, I assume. Is there another option, Toby?
Dead. They're watching live or dead.
Because every week on a Friday, 3 p.m. EST, like 2 weeks prior to when we actually release the edited episode on like Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, etc., and of course YouTube. So if you're a member on YouTube, you'll actually have your name on screen, by the way, at the beginning of the podcast, and access to like community posts, so you can suggest topics and segments, and of course, we will also directly talk to you in the live stream if you so happen to catch one of them, like today's or next week's. Toby, what is this? Why are we on your channel? I mean, you already said so, but what are we donating for? What are we raising for?
Well, tomorrow, actually, as of recording this, that's the 4th of February, is World Cancer Day. And every year, I have tried to historically do some kind of charity fundraiser event to raise money for cancer research here in the UK. Of course, cancer research is it's a worldwide effort, obviously, to find treatments, cures, and preventative measures for all forms of cancer in the world. Cancer is something that obviously affects. You probably know someone. I think most people know someone, whether that's a relative, a friend, and unfortunately, that can be people that have now passed as a result.
Yeah.
Back 30 years ago, this is the statistic that I find amazing and that they lead with on their website. 30 years ago, if you got a cancer diagnosis, your survivability rate was 1 in 4. That is to say that if a doctor sat down with you, 1 in 4 people would be surviving that cancer diagnosis. But 30 years on, it's dramatic. But 30 years on, the survivability rate is now 2 in 4, or 50%. It's still a scary, oh my goodness, a 50-50, but it's literally double better because of the research that's been done. And they're hoping that in the next 15 to 20 years, we're going to be talking about 3 in 4. So they've literally flipped the odds on cancer, which I think is absolutely incredible. In fact, we just got a donation, and I'm not going to be able to read through all these while we're doing the podcast, but I will read through them at the end of the show, because we're raising money. And we've actually raised over nearly £550 today and £1,000 previously. We're going to bundle it all together. And we want to try and raise £5,000 towards this effort to change the battle in our lifetime to the point where, 3 in 4 people, and maybe even more than that, by the time our lifetimes are up, are getting that cancer diagnosis. And it's like, you know what? Actually, there are these treatments, there is, these preventative measures to not get it in the first place, and these hopefully cures as well. So it's a big thing, it affects everyone. So what I would encourage, and I will leave this linked in the podcast as well, in the description, or no matter where you're hearing this, there will be an option to donate to cancer research, no matter where you are, to be part of that effort. And just thank you to everyone for your kindness and contributions. So that's why we're doing this here. On my channel instead.
The cancer episode. We're only talking about cancer today.
I think that might make it a bit glum. I think that might make it a little
We can
dark.
extend it to crabs.
Those are your options. Cancer. Oh, because the crab star sign is Cancer, right?
Yeah. Potentially we can generate a crabby. We'll see.
I was
Hopefully
wondering
not.
how you got there. Have
you ever eaten a crab?
I don't know. I'm glad you asked me that though, rather than the cancer stuff. Because I'll be honest,
you ever eaten cancer?
There's only so many ways that conversation can go, really. Which is, do you know someone with? Well, yeah. And how did it?
Everybody
not good.
does.
And it's just such a sad thing. There's no. I don't know how to treat that situation with the levity and joy that we like to infuse in the podcast. So while there is a very serious undertheming and undertoning, we'll probably be talking more about crabs and other such things.
We like astrology, but honestly, I mean, we can talk about astrology, but I assume it's literally that we both don't subscribe to any astrology and know nothing about it.
No, I definitely don't. I think horoscopes are the kind of thing where if you read any of them, you're like, oh, that applies to me. That applies to me. Oh, I'm definitely that. But you just read your one, and so you're like, and I think you're predisposed to gravitate towards the ones that are yours. I think, because it's like, people want. Of course, it would be super cool if by like reading stars you could understand your future or where you're at. But like, I think the science on that and the research on that is pretty tight. That it's just sort of like human suggestibility to seek out patterns and to want to see things. Because you can read any description about you on any given day. Like, you are a deep thinker. And you go, yeah, I am a deep thinker. And it's like, oh, you're strong-willed. And you go, yeah, I am strong-willed. And it's like, these are everyone is all of these things at different points of time. You can. So that's kind of what. But I think it's really cool. I do think they're really cool. And I'm a Taurus as well. So yeah. I'm like a cool one.
I like using it in fiction and stuff like that. It's cool to use it in media and stuff like that. And if it makes you happier, yeah, might as well. Think about it. But
what's your star sign?
Leo. I don't know what the rising stuff and the sun and moons. The only sun and moon I know is Pokemon. I don't even know our actual sun and moon. What is that?
What? Sun is Sol, right?
Sol and Luna.
I guess.
It's funny. So there's the whole question of like, hey, why do we call all the other moons by their names but not ours? Well, first, I mean, the moon is kind of the name. But second, a cool answer that I heard recently is like, it's the same way that it's the same reason we call our parents, mother and father, but we don't call other mother and father, mother and father. We call them by their actual names. So that makes sense.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense to me. And it would make sense because, like, for the longest time, like humanity, you look up and there's two very clear celestial bodies. And it's like that one and that one. They get special nameage. And then it's only after you look further out and the technology grows to understand what those other dots in the sky are that you can start assigning, that's a moon for that planet like ours, so we have to give it, because and some planets have multiple moons, so you give them these different names. It would make sense to start obviously with R2 and just go,
well, yeah, that was the first ones we knew. We didn't even we didn't assume there were others. The question is
yeah, go on. Well, I was just gonna imagine a science fiction. This has probably been done. Imagine a science fiction where, like, for all of humanity there was the sun, the moon, and then there was like this other thing. And then just, that was scary in modern day, just after like thousands of years, just the records of it stopped, and no one knows why. What this other celestial body was, it's just gone now, and all the records stopped like 1,000 years ago or something. How wild!
That would be crazy if there was like just a third kind of celestial body we just don't remember of,
like a prominent, like a really like it's within like the same sort of what relative to. On a cosmic scale.
What if, so we have literally the sun made of plasma, we have the moon made of solid, made of solid. But what if there were two other celestial bodies, like one a water sphere and then like a gas sphere?
A gas sphere. And then they just disappeared and no one knows why, and like you could set this sci-fi world and it starts off like the scientists are explaining it by like, well, actually naturally after several million years the water would like de-evaporate and it would disappear quite quickly, but also, and it just so happens that was 500 years ago, but that's weird because that's when the pyramids of this world were. I don't know, I'm going in some weird fiction ancient alien stuff. I love that stuff. I love all that stuff. The horoscope stuff, the ancient aliens, the undead creatures, the like what are vampires based on, like anything like that where the supernatural get some grounding. I love it.
This is why we have Chad again. Jupiter and I think Saturn too. I mean, a lot of the gas giants are literally gas, so that there are gas spheres, but I guess liquid sphere is what we do not have. I assume we have ice sphere. Well, again, but that's a solid. Whatever. Have you ever watched those videos online of like all the suns that are discovered and like in order of like their size?
I haven't, but ours is relatively small, right?
Yeah, ours is so small, and then like so the video will go, show our sun first, and then it'll go to each sun, and it's just unfathomably big each one, and it triggers my megalophobia. I cannot. It's scary when I look at these videos. Just to know that there are these things that are like bigger than you can even think about.
That's really interesting, and it does have that effect. It makes you realize how unfathomably small you are in relation to like anything. There are just big things out there. And when I say big, I don't mean big, I mean mahoosive.
Mahoosive. Wait, does the sun have a core that isn't plasma? I assume so. I think it has like a metal core, no? Because
I'm not sure. I don't know.
I don't know how metal would exist there. Probably. We know nothing about this.
Have we spoken much about aliens on the podcast before? We've done all sorts of topics, but have we done aliens?
We actually did not talk about aliens, honestly. And yeah, I'm a big alien guy in terms of like talking about it.
Aliens, definitely real, in my opinion. Like, I can say that with like, I'm saying that based on like, I've never met an alien, and I don't have like evidence for an alien other than just like it would seem really improbable that there wouldn't be aliens based on just like the size of the universe and like the stuff in it.
It's kind of like, for me, it's like the inverse of God, where it's like they're both agnostic to God, but also aliens. But like to God, it's more likely that God doesn't exist, while to aliens, it's more likely that aliens do exist.
Yeah, I get that. That makes sense to me.
But they're both like, I don't know, and I'm not sure. Like, it's not 100% for any of those things.
Wouldn't. It's a weird one. I can't claim knowledge. I don't know for a fact that aliens exist. So I have to like objectively, I cannot say with certainty aliens exist. It would just seem to me, based on my understanding, granted limited understanding of how the universe works, that it would be unbelievably unlikely that aliens don't exist in some way or another. And now the question of whether they visited Earth before, I get a little bit more doubtful on that, but I don't know. What do you think?
Well, the question is always, are there aliens underwater? But then technically those aren't aliens, those are just creatures that we don't know of. But I mean, there definitely are. We probably don't know at least 1,000 species. That's probably a low ball, honestly. Like, there has to be some kind of relatively intelligent species deep in the ocean that we don't know of. That would be cool. But that's not.
I like the idea. Well, I mean, I've always liked the idea that if the various chemical recipes for the beginning of life came from asteroids way back when, then in theory we're all sort of aliens. Like, it's hard to say what,
those
you know,
life,
at what
though.
point.
That wasn't life. That was just the chemicals that make life.
I guess
the elements that make life.
Huh.
We are all stardust, if that's what you're trying to say.
Yes, this is true. I like the I don't believe any of them, but I love the really bad like video quality. Oh my goodness, what's that thing? And there's like a little creature like running through the cornfield, and it's like, no, I love those videos. Like, the more convincing you can make it, the better.
I mean, I love it, but I hate it. Like, I love the idea of those existing, but I hate watching them.
Why? Does it make you? Does
it's
it
scary,
make you uncomfortable? Yeah,
I'll watch it during the day. I don't watch that during the night.
I think that the nice thing about those videos is because it's a kind of horror where, like, if you go to the cinema to watch a horror movie, you are aware that you're walking into a cinema, that you're having that presence. But the idea of stumbling across a video that you weren't meant to see one night on YouTube grounds it in reality in a way that can play with your horror senses like way better.
What's the name of that channel? It's not like aliens or anything, but it's like, it's kind of speculative. It's a famous thing. It's like a famous, scary, uncanny kind of thing related to, what's it called? The SCPs, but it's like totally.
Do you mean like? Oh, you mean like the All Tomorrows?
Something Chronicles or something like story. Like, it's like, it sounds like a epic story online. Not All Tomorrows. Someone has to know it. It's like a channel where it's like, one of the videos, or one example is like, there's this video of like different emotions that aren't real, like, and they're like made up emotions with like examples of them.
What?
Like,
what are you talking about?
Like this is not in the video, but I'm making up, like, gleek or melt. Well, no, that's an actual word. But like, and then you have like a face representing that, and it's like an uncanny, like, scary face representing that emotion that we can't fathom. But that's an example of it, and it's like,
it's a fun idea.
I want that, like, this paranormal, like, uncanny genre. I love. on YouTube. Again, I don't watch these at night, and I'm not that kind of guy who like goes into the rabbit hole and like I'm obsessed with it because it is actually scary for me. But
I think it's scary.
I like the feeling.
It's reasonably scary. Like I think all of these things, but for me, it's the kind of spook that if I'm in the mood for it, I'll give it. I'll allow it to happen. And analog horror, is that what you're talking about?
Analog horror is the genre.
Thank you, Immortal Absol. Thank you.
But I'm trying to find the most famous version of analog horror on YouTube. I'm trying to find it.
Do you know about the All Tomorrow stuff?
All Tomorrow? No, I haven't heard of it. Let me.
So it's like it's a speculative evolution.
The future of humanity.
Novel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really popped off on YouTube recently, and I'm watching, or maybe I've just found the community on YouTube recently, but like I'm watching all those videos and I am obsessed. I love that stuff. The idea of like in the future of humanity, we take this form and that form, and at what point? It's funny because we were laughing, I think on 2 podcasts ago about like I was like, oh, all our ancestors were fish, and you're like, what are you talking about? I was like, well, technically far enough back, and like I love the idea of like. At what point is it just not human anymore? At what point is it the next thing or the next thing or the next thing? I love that stuff.
By the way, it 100% is analog horror, but I forgot the name of the actual... Wow, this is scary. I'm looking through it all. Like, for example, one of the emotions is like dorselessness. And
I'm gonna look this up. Like
Markiplier reacting to analog horror, that's the exact video that I'm talking about.
Okay.
Like Andric. These just...
I've not like seen this, but I love what you're describing. Hang on, I'm gonna.
And it's just illustrations of like they're scary. They're scary illustrations of like.
Oh no, that's like Oh gosh, that one looks a little bit like the viral lady that went around.
Momo?
Yeah.
Yeah, like what's the killer? What's the murderer?
Oh, I don't like this.
What's that meme that I hate?
I don't know.
Jack the murderer, or not Jack the Ripper, obviously, but like
I know what you mean.
The scary face that I hate.
The scary face.
That is actually the scariest. Like for years, the first like 5 years that I've discovered this face, I could not. Now I guess I've desensitized myself a little bit. I could not look at that face for like 4 years when I first discovered it. What is the face called? The murderer guy with the white face, the white pale face, Jeff the Killer.
Jeff the Killer. There you go.
I hate Jeff the Killer.
Between us, we just said his name twice. Go one more.
Jeff the Killer. What?
Oh no. Oh man. I gotta find a new podcast host. Oh no. Kenneth Catcher says, did you guys know that humans have stripes that we can't see? Now, I think I've heard about this before.
Hate that also. Well, first, this is fun. I love talking about this, but I love the feeling of this like fear for a second. Just like we've had it multiple times during this podcast where we're talking about like a random planet that we don't know of, or like right now stripes on humans that we can't see. Like just a surprise of like this horror surprise is scary.
Of humanity
is fun to me, but I don't want to indulge in it too much because that it's scary.
It'll spook you out.
But I love it.
And we got a podcast to do, and I don't want you.
What if humans had stripes that we can't see?
No, I think humans do have stripes that we can't see.
Well, yeah, like they're more like. They're not like patterns. They're more like literal, just lines, right?
I think Phoebe, I mean, I don't know if this is the same thing or if this is a different thing, but Phoebe does have, like, I don't know if it's like a birthmark or what, but she's got, like, stripes on her
stretch
back.
marks, yeah.
No, but not like, it's not like a stretch mark, because it's like a vertical line across her back. Like, it's not where you would get stretch marks.
That is 100% where it's like the growth, it's just, she's a tall woman, so, like, I assume it was like a growth spurt, and then my brother has those too, and he's not tall, but, like, I guess he went through these.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, the stretch marks that are related to growth. I mean, that's what all stretch marks are.
Oh, maybe. I mean, it makes sense. Phoebe's a tall lady. No, they're full stripe patterns. That's interesting. I didn't know this. I'm interested to know, okay, like, how do we know that? Do you know? Because I don't know.
It's probably like ultraviolet something.
I get away with murder when it comes to... I get away with a lot when it comes to, like, being a science authority, and I want to be clear on the internet, I'm absolutely not a science authority. I have no degree, no education outside of watching YouTube videos and reading Wikipedias, and I don't spend a lot of time doing it, and I only do it specifically for the videos where I'm talking about it, and even then I usually look for videos with other people with a clearer understanding talking about those things. So just to be clear, people, if you think like I know what I'm talking about, I am not the person to ask on any of it. on any of it.
Yeah.
I'm just as equally talking out my bum as most people.
Like, I pride myself in being interested in a lot of things, but not particularly being knowledgeable or an authority in anything. Other than
Stripes are Pokemon? Ultraviolet, apparently.
Yeah, we've established
that. And Kayla, and even there, like Kayla read it in a scientific article. I've not read a scientific article in my life. That is amazing. So, just so you all know, don't take my word on that. I can tell you about Pokemon.
We're basically mimicking Scarlet and Violet right now with like scientific articles that speculate things that we're not 100% aware of right now, and now we're just making up things based on what we've read in those books.
But it's fun.
Yeah,
it's fun. It's relatively harmless. We're not like trying to change your worldviews. We're really just talking about the things we enjoy talking about. Dude, I'm really enjoying Scarlet and Violet right now. Maybe it's just because I'm playing with Phoebe. I don't know. I'm having fun. Well, I'm having a good time.
Here's the thing. Like, I mean, you've done it yourself. We've all done it. Where it's like we've always changed our perspective and perception of a specific generation after like a second or third playthrough. It's happened to everybody. So I don't know why people are always like quick to judge an entire game or generation based on their first playthrough.
I'll be interested to see what my takeaway is at the end. And I agree with you.
Like, you literally did not care about Black and White until you replayed it or whatever. Or
no, that was the biggest switch term for me, was like playing Black and White 2. I didn't care much for it, and I played it when it came out. And then it would have been like, at this point, 3-4 years ago now, maybe. And I played it again. I think it's fantastic. I think it's one of the best Pokemon games, and I can't believe it kind of went under the radar for me. I still don't think, like, side by side, Scarlet and Violet look anywhere near as good as Legends Arceus, and like I still prefer those games and the way they handle. But like, and I find the first hour of Scarlet and Violet criminal.
Really?
I really do.
What?
Yeah, it takes you an hour.
What is considered the first hour?
And you can't make it any shorter because this is how long the dialogue boxes are. It's the very beginning of the game to when you are in the plaza in Mesagoza City.
What?
And you,
dude, what are you talking about?
No, when you've just left the school and all three of the main characters come up to you. That takes 45 minutes to an hour.
First, that took me like 3 hours. Second, because like, you're just exploring the whole place. What are you talking about? That's probably the most like open a first area has ever been in a Pokemon game.
It's actually not as much as you think.
What do you mean it's not as much? It's literally physically the more area to explore in the first few hours than any other Pokemon game. I don't know what you're talking about.
That area, like, I think if you went back and replayed it, you'd realize that it's actually not as big as it seems.
It seemed, perhaps, yeah, because the first time it's always going to feel bigger, but it's definitely the biggest. Maybe Obsidian Fieldlands technically is more, but like...
It is, but the issue is because you, like,
that's
for me...
Of the game.
the other issue is, for me, the game is certainly better with Koraidon and Miraidon to ride, right?
Yeah.
To me, that's the point of the game where the game like actually opens up into a much bigger world, and so I don't want to really go exploring in that first like little section it gives you. I know what's out there. There's some Drowsies, there's some Flamingo Pokemon.
You literally just replayed it. You replayed a game that you just
that's true.
Played a few months ago, and you already know everything that's there. If anytime I replay a Pokemon game, I already forgot the details because I'm playing it like 4 years later. So it's fun re-exploring the place. But I really genuinely, the first time I played Scarlet and Violet, Poco Path was one of the best, like, just first routes. It's so lively and.
I really like the part, and I think it's Poco Path. It's the bit where, so after you've left the lighthouse, turn right, and then there's like, that's where the gate is at the end, for the legendary Pokemon.
No, so the Poco Path is literally just the first area, like right out of your hometown, between the hometown and the lighthouse. That's Poco Path. Oh,
you like that bit of the game?
It's. What, do you prefer Route 1 in Kanto? I don't understand what it is. Like,
I don't necessarily prefer a different Route 1. I just don't think it's, like... That's not open, like, compared to...
It's not open, but that's why I'm saying that for...
It's just fine. It's just normal.
It's the only place in the whole game that feels like a traditional route. And for a traditional route...
That's true.
It's lively, and there's things.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I guess... It's not special in any way, though. Like, I'm not, like... Compared to like any other Route 1.
Compared to any other Route 1, I think it's special. Then, that's not what I was talking about.
Okay.
In terms of then after the lighthouse, all that is the special part. That is like, that's what I was talking about before, but I also really like Poco Path. But after the lighthouse, after you're done with all the legendary stuff with the lighthouse and Arvin and stuff like that, I think from lighthouse to Mesagoza, I think that's just really good stuff for the first area in Pokemon.
So
there's trainers, there's items, there's tons of Pokemon.
I agree, but also like there's still quite like for me, Scarlet and Violet, the game that I want to be playing, where I can choose to do anything in any order, that is immediately available to me after I'm able to ride Rhydon. Anything before that, knowing that even if I spend like an hour detouring, and I really don't know, like if I maybe on my first playthrough, but I certainly couldn't now go and spend like 3 hours exploring that area. I'd get like 20-30 minutes out of it. But even if I enjoyed that bit, I would be immediately back onto the railroad the moment I hit Mesagoza until I've done all of that stuff. And it's just so much time. Like, even with that little half-hour break to go explore, I want to get onto the game, which is everything after you've got Rhydon. Yeah, but other than that little exploration bit, which, again, I played it quite recently, so I'm not fussed about that. I just want to get onto the bit
I think
where
that really is the problem.
paths.
That I don't think you're right now. You're currently not playing it the way it's supposed to be, which is rushing through it because you already played it 2 months ago.
Yeah, but to play the rest of the game, to enjoy the rest of it. But I think that first portion of the game is like just really bad.
Compared to the rest of the game, perhaps, but I'm saying compared to any other first area in a game, I think it is the best. It has
in terms of the area, yeah. In terms of the sequence of events and like the dialogue, like
I'm not talking about
it's the same as Sun and Moon.
When you're done with all that, when you're after the lighthouse to Mesagoza.
Sure, but the issue is you've still got like 30 minutes of that. As soon as you've decided I'm done exploring. Yeah, there's loads. You got to do the Team Stars battle outside.
No, that's in
Mesagoza.
I'm talking about between the lighthouse and Mesagoza.
I know. But what I'm saying is, you've still got 50% of tutorial to do. I want to get it out of the way.
That's a separate thing.
I see it all as the same thing. I see it all as the same thing. You know, because it's like, for me, the game really begins once you're able to ride Rhydon and Rhydon. And so, yes, if I want to, go and do that detour, that's fine. But like, and enjoy that is an incredible thing for the game to offer. But the fact that I'm sitting there going, yeah, okay, I've still got like half an hour's worth of like dialogue to skip through after this, or 25 minutes of that after. Like,
let's compare for example, to Legends Arceus. Legends Arceus, you have 2 hours before you can even start doing anything. Okay?
I don't know, it's 2 hours.
You have an hour
maybe
of like literally nothing for an hour. Mm-hmm. And then you get to do the light version of the tutorial in Obsidian Field. Then you go back for another like 20 minutes, and then you come, and then you're finally free. So an hour and a half.
So agree with...
While in this game, it's like you have the standard battle your rival, meet your rival, get your Pokemon, normal amount of time compared to any other Pokemon game. It's not that long. And then you get right away Poco Path, normal Route 1, and then you have the legendary stuff for like 10-15 minutes, while you also get to also explore this cave, so you definitely still get to battle Pokemon and do stuff. Unlike, for example, Sun and Moon, where like it's literally an hour you don't get to battle a Pokemon, while you get to battle Pokemon within 10 minutes of the game.
The problem is all of these examples that you're giving, I agree, they are also all egregious.
No, this is way worse. This you get to battle Pokemon right away, and you get to catch Pokemon right away. And then you get to some story with the legendary, but that's like 10-15 minutes, which is also interesting if it's the first time that you're playing the game, and if you haven't played the game in like 2 years. Like nothing's gonna be interesting story wise if you played it literally two months ago.
That's true. That's true.
And then you get to, if you are replaying this game after 2 years or for the first time, like I did 2 months ago, you aren't gonna now rush through the first area to Mesagoza. You're gonna look around, which is like 2 to 3 hours.
I would never spend 2 to 3 hours doing that. Even when I was first playing it, I didn't spend 2 to 3 hours doing that. I think at most I could get 20 minutes. No, 20 minutes at most.
20 minutes.
There is not that much content.
I watched a lot of playthroughs. They were all, and people in playthroughs rush. They were not spending it 20 minutes from Lighthouse to Mesagoza. They were all 2 hours around.
There is just not that much area to explore. I disagree with you entirely. I've just been there. There's not that much content to explore.
It's not exciting for you because you literally just been there 2 months ago.
No, sure, but like even when I first played it, right, and I was excited to explore. There's not that much. There's the big area to the right where you can go to where the legendary thing is, and that is really exciting to see. On like the early area, there's a Drowsy, there's the Wooper, like there's all that stuff. That's all really really cool. But realistically, it's that's not that long. And then once you're in front of Mesagoza City. And there's like some grass area there on the other side of the small town. There is not 2.5 hours. It's not an hour and a half. There's an hour at a push. Like I can't even imagine how I would spend that time and be enjoying myself doing that. That just doesn't make sense to me. I think it's more like half hour at best. On a standard playthrough. But maybe that's just me. But for me, like, and then it's like, okay, so then now I've got to do another like half hour of bits. And then I can play the game however I would like to play it, in whatever order I would choose to play it. Don't get me wrong, after that point, the game really opens up and becomes a lot more enjoyable in terms of gameplay. And like that's like where I start actually having like fun. But like I mean in all of these cases, whether it's Legends Arceus, whether it's this, whether it's Sun and Moon, whether it's Sword and Shield, Sword and Shield's probably the better of them, I think.
Of what?
Of all these intros. Yeah.
It's average.
Because even exploring like, okay, you get to Sword and Shield's wild area probably a little after you would get to the open area in the first open area in Scarlet and Violet. But I think the wild area, yeah, it's about. I think there's, because obviously you can't really cross the bridge. Or can you cross the bridge in Sword and Shield, where the Snorlax is, or can you not cross that?
Sword and Shield, Snorlax. Oh, later
in the wild area you can't before you go to. So I think that area. I don't think.
How long do you spend in that area, by the way? Just asking you.
I mean, yeah, if you're rushing, it's like, but if not, if I was exploring, like, I definitely prefer the Scarlet and Violet.
But how long did you spend in the first wild area in Sword and Shield the first time you were there?
The first time I was there, probably about 30 minutes.
How is that more than in Scarlet and Violet? How is that possible? That's literally...
No, you said the first time. Like, the
first time you also weren't more than a half an hour. For Scarlet and Violet.
The first time I was about an hour, but like
you said pushing it, and you were probably not enjoying
it. That was me stretching it,
and you were enjoying it less than the average. So
yeah,
so of course it's going to be less than the average in terms of time there. So I would say the average would be around.
I don't know. I think it doesn't matter whether I was enjoying. Like I was going out, I was looking at everything, trying to interact with everything. I don't know. I'm not. I think
it's literally triple the size of the first wild area in Scarlet and Violet, maybe even more.
I don't know.
Dude,
I don't agree with that.
What?
I don't agree with that. I don't know if there's like some other area there that you're like thinking about, but like
wait,
between the lighthouse and Mesagoza City, I reckon at best it's double the size of the first wild area.
Okay, it's double. I'm going to say double.
Okay,
but it's like in terms of like let's say. Because like,
at best,
because it's like all flat the original.
But I agree.
So
I agree that Scarlet and Violet's world is more exciting to explore because it's not like this all flat like plane.
You're going up and down. You're going up and down things in Scarlet and Violet, which like extends the area that you are walking in.
Yeah. No, I agree. I prefer Scarlet and Violet.
And then there's also trainers, and there's a lot of items, and
it's true.
Lots of. I mean, there's new Pokemon in both of them.
Yeah, I definitely think they're getting better at it, but I think Sword and Shield's pretty similar because then you get into Motorstoke and then you've got like the gym initiation and all of that, and it's actually it's really structured this similarly. I'm realizing now, I'm thinking about it. You get your first Team Yell battle, there's the first Team Stars battle, then you get your gym initiation, that's the same as the school, and like it's actually very very similar.
Yeah.
But Scarlet and Violet then rewards you with like the moment you're out of Mesagoza City, the moment you've like got your 3 challenges to pursue, you're off and rolling,
yeah, it's
which is nice. I agree. I just wish it got there quicker. That's all. I appreciate
the stuff in
break.
Macedonia should have been quicker. That we agree on.
Well, yeah, but
I just think relative to other games, the first areas are good.
So I'll agree with you, but I think where I disagree is that like I think they're all problems. Like I think generally speaking, I'd rather just have a game that just allow me to get into what I want to play the game for, which is for Scarlet and Violet, it's the thing is that is what I wanted to play for. When I was playing through everything from the beginning to Mesagoza, I was playing for this. I was getting what I wanted from Pokemon. So I don't understand that. Because it's literally the same as any like Hoenn to Unova. You're literally just the first few locations and routes. You're just walking around, catching Pokemon, battling trainers. That's what I'm doing in Scarlet and Violet in the first areas. I don't understand how that's different. And I'm doing it also in an open world and with nooks and crannies, with new Pokemon and items galore. So I don't understand how that's worse than, let's say, Unova in the first two routes of Unova. I think the difference is in, like, the Hoenn games, for example.
Which I love.
Which I also love. I mean, so we're only going to agree on this. But, like, there isn't... there's not, like, a huge tutorial section that's going to be like 45 minutes. Like by 45 minutes, I could be on my way to Dooford. You know what I mean?
When you're thinking of being in the tutorial section, even if they're not talking to you actively, you are still in the tutorial section for you.
Well, yes. I'm using tutorial as a shorthand. That's where we
disagree. For me, it's not like I'm still in the tutorial section. When can I get out? It's more like, I get to roam, and then when I'm done exploring, I go back to Nemona, do the more tutorial, and then only when I'm with Nemona, I'm doing tutorial.
Let me be more specific. I'll call it a dialogue tunnel. In Sword and Shield, it's like 45 minutes of dialogue tunnel. Then as long as you want in that open area, and then once you get to Mesagoza City, another 45 minutes of dialogue tunnel. Sword and Shield or Scarlet Violet? Scarlet Violet. Okay. Well, yeah, Scarlet Violet. Both, sorry. So, yeah, 45 minutes of dialogue tunnel. Then, as long as you want in the open area, which is very nice and appreciated break, and then another 45 minutes of dialogue tunnel. And then maybe I'm over exaggerating, maybe more like 35 minutes on each side. But then with like Hoenn, like I can go at whatever pace I want. There's no worry about like there's something in front of me that I gotta get through, and there's nothing behind me that I gotta get through. I just play the game.
But the game is the thing that you have to get through. That's what a game is. I don't understand.
But the first 35 minutes
when I'm playing, let's say the game, and I'm like. And all of a sudden, this legendary stuff happens. It's like, I have to get through it. It's like, no, this is part of the plot of the game. I'm enjoying it. I don't understand.
I agree. But like with like Hoenn, for example, when those cutscenes are happening and when that's happening, it's very much the exception, not the rule. Most of the game is playing it how you want to play, exploring the way you want to explore. I think with like the first 35 minutes of Scarlet or Violet, Sword and Shield, whatever way you want to do it. Like, I'm not having fun for those first 35 minutes.
What's included in the 35 minutes?
Just dialogue tunnel.
That's everything is dialogue. I'm asking what is happening?
That's getting out of the bedroom, going down meeting the professor, going down the straight path to Nemona's house, battling Nemona, and heading up Route 1 to the little town. It's not. Yeah, heading up to Route 1 to the lighthouse, then the Miraidon battle thing, following that up its trail, then battling Arven. So that takes about 35 minutes. And that, I enjoy the little Route 1 section where you can battle the Spidops and the Lechonk.
What's wrong with the legendary part? Just because it has plot doesn't mean that it's objective. It's like automatically now something.
No, it's not because it's got plot. I've not got a problem with the fact that it's got plot.
You're not interested in it. It's not.
But I'm not interested because I've just sat still for friggin' so long, and it's like, let me.
What do you mean
do
sat still?
Something?
What are you talking about? You just went through
because my entire gameplay experience is moving forward and pressing A. That's not. I'm not excited by this.
That's all of Pokemon, moving forward and pressing A. What does that mean?
But like, it's not like I get a choice as to where to go. It's just.
In any Pokemon game, you don't get a choice to go in the first route.
Of course you do.
In the first route? You go through the first route to the next town. That's literally every Pokemon game.
But it's not about like the first route. It's like the amount of time, right? It's like 45 minutes. Like I say, in Hoenn, in 45 minutes, I could be in Dooford Town.
There's no plot in the first 45 minutes.
And that's great, because they save the plot for appropriate moments and reward you with it, rather than like shoving it in your face.
We have to discover the legendary.
okay, that's fine. But like, I've just had to sit through like I wouldn't mind if it was like a couple minutes here, now go off and do something. Then a couple minutes here, go off and do something. A couple minutes here. That's how previous Pokemon games, like from the Sprite era, handle it. It's like you have a little bit of plot, you have a little bit of like railroaded, then go and explore this route or that route, however you like. Cool, now here's a little bit more plot, and you're in it. But the fact is, I've just spent 45 minutes with almost no break. The only break being Route 1, which I think is just Spidops and Lechonk. That's cool, once I realized that, there's not a lot else there. And that's fine, like a lot of Route 1s are like that, but the point is,
there are more Pokemon than that. But
you spend a significant amount more time doing the dialogue and story and everything, and it's like, okay, I just want to, like, what I've been promised is this cool, big Pokemon open world exploration. I want to go play that game. I want to go play that part of the game.
Every single Pokemon game, at least from there is a difference between Gen 6 and onward.
Yes.
I think this is the best from Gen 6 in terms of the first area. Since Gen 6. Gen 6, you literally have no first area. And then you're still handheld until Santa Luna.
So I agree with you a lot.
And
so I agree with you and disagree with you. Yes, Sun and Moon is
Sun and Moon is the worst example. Until Motostoke.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things happening in Motostoke.
Yeah. It's really once you get out of Motostoke, then you get.
So I don't understand why you enjoy this beginning less than those in terms of like the vibe that you're getting.
Well, I guess on that instance, it's probably just because of the visuals. It's then like, and
Poco Path visuals is nice. Very good compared to.
I find the whole game to look, but you know that, like, that's how I feel like, and I still find that playing it now.
I can show
none of it looks good. Like, that's not a lot of the game looks good.
Compared to other Pokemon game, Poco Path looks good. No, you were saying.
No, I don't agree.
I think that's
regardless of what it looks like it's hard to appreciate the aesthetics that are there because of like how bad it looks on the Switch and like just how bad it looks in general. Like I say, I think like Legends Arceus is just visually so much more pleasing. Like,
and
that makes a difference.
If you the shot where you're first seeing Obsidian Fieldland, the first the shot from the path when you're overlooking Obsidian Fieldland, that does not look better than me than when you're on a Poco Path and you're looking.
I just have to disagree. I maybe that's just the art style or what, but like I've just played Legends Arceus recently, and like I'm playing through the beginning of that game, and like don't get me wrong, I also hate the bits where I'm being railroaded. Like I want to go off and explore, and I've pushed through those bits, but like. I think it's beautiful. I think Legends Arceus is genuinely the best looking like modern Pokemon game. I think it looks so much better than Scarlet and Violet.
I don't agree. I personally actually prefer Sword and Shield's art style.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Here's what's also weird. Whenever, like, well, obviously it's different from each person to person, but it's like everybody was like, Legend Arceus looks terrible, and everybody was like, Sword and Shield looks terrible. And now everybody's Scarlet and Violet looks terrible. It's like everybody has a completely different
I guess. Yeah.
Perspective on the art style. But like I don't understand this like vast
difference.
The vast difference in
well, it's because we've talked about this stuff on the podcast before, but like I just think like things are popping in and out. Things are just look rough around the edges. For me, this is the experience that I keep having. That's not the
art style. I'm not talking about the
no. But like,
I'm talking about the art
but
style.
Like that stuff gets in the way, like hugely, because that's the stuff that my attention is drawn to constantly, and so that stuff gets in the way of me enjoying what is there. You combine that in 45 minutes where I'm not getting to sort of play a game. I'm just
I think you are playing as much as any other Pokemon game for the last 10 years. I think you are playing a game.
Well, for the last 10 years, sure.
And you have enjoyed those games. That's what you've enjoyed all of those games.
But I find all of their openings also like really, really like those are the worst parts of the game. It's leading with your worst foot forward.
But when I say that this is one of the best, you're like, it's impossible when it's
because I can't even enjoy the visuals of it. Like it's like
that's just unfortunately that's subjective, so we can't really talk about that because we're not going to gaslight each other in terms of the visuals. I really genuinely think Poco Path is one of the best looking first routes.
I also think that like I mean, I just played the opening to Legends Arceus again, and like I didn't notice the tutorial being, or the dialogue tunnel being quite as long as.
The tutorial of Legends Arceus is terrible. I don't like it's so bad.
It's still really long. It's still definitely bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm on the same page as that, but like I think it lets you. I prefer it. I definitely think it gives you more freedom to play than sooner than Scarlet and Violet. All of it said, like since Gen 6 onwards, these segments of the game, this way that Game Freak is designing.
But like for example, let's say I'm replaying Black and White 2. I'm replaying Black and White 2. Love my favorite Pokemon game. The first, like you're just going through like. I'm more immersed playing like through the first parts of Scarlet and Violet. Because like it's it's an open world game where I'm discovering different Pokemon in a creek, behind a bush, behind a rock, like picking up items, battling just in any Pokemon game. Also getting to encounter also some story parts which I do like. I like the legendary. I like Nimona and Arven. So like I don't see it as vastly different. Not vastly worse or better. It's vastly different, yes, but it's not. I don't see it as vastly worse than some of the first parts.
But just have to agree to disagree. I think it, like for me, the idea that in any of the first 5 generations, like I could have done so much more and played, if I wanted to spend more time on Route 1, I could have. If not, whatever. Again, like 3 hours into Hoenn, you can be here. 3 hours into Unova, you can be here. But like the first, certainly the first hour and a half of any of the Gen 6 onward games, you're pretty much always in exactly the same place because the game is telling you, this is how you're going to play. This is how you're going to play.
In an hour, I only get to halfway to the first gym in any Pokemon game. It takes me 2 hours to beat the first gym in most Pokemon games. And because I'm an explorer. I do explore.
Okay. I think you can be a bit further than that.
And I'm not going anywhere else than that.
I would typically find that within the first hour of like playing Ruby or Sapphire, I've done the rival battle, got my starter, I've got, through Rustboro, through the forest, I've done the gym, I'm probably on to Wisdom Eternal, whatever. That's like the first hour for me, whatever. Whereas in this game, the first hour,
you're really, so then again, there's nothing to. The problem is there's nothing to explore in these routes. You're just going through them quickly.
But I still had autonomy, right? I was still allowed to make all the decisions about where I was going, what I was doing. But I would do this, give you the same conversation for what's it called? For Sword and Shield. And I agree with you about Legends Arceus as well. It's, they're all pretty analogous. Those 3, you could, kind of swap them in and out, and there's different perks and different whatevers, but then anything since Gen 6 has been pretty similar, and like, I am frustrated by that as a player. Definitely. I think in the same amount of time in any of the 2D games, you get a lot more, autonomy, and that, for me, if playing the game is... Yes, you are literally playing the game. Of course you are. You have to press the buttons. You have to engage. But like, you get more options to engage with it the way you want to play, and that's what I like about Pokemon games, and what I like about this past Pokemon games. Yeah. Does that make sense?
I already understood that an hour ago. I think we understood each other an hour ago. I think the problem is other things that we'll talk off podcast. Unfortunately, this is the worst thing that could have happened on your channel. This is not an example of usual Calm Mind episode. This didn't even feel like Calm Mind, honestly. It just felt like a segment talking about a specific thing.
Angry Minds talking about not at all. Like,
and honestly, you want me to like be honest about what the reason why it went so long?
Why? Yeah,
because I'm on your channel, and a lot of, I'd say 80% of people are agreeing with you.
In the chat. You're right.
And I'm looking at the chat, and I'm like, okay, I have to bring them more to defend it, and I'm not doing a good job defending it, honestly.
No. I don't.
But it's more like,
I don't disagree with you.
We're not like.
Go on.
I think if it was like just us recording Calm Mind, I would be like, it would just be a segment, and then we would just let it go. But it felt like, I don't know why, like, even because we've already talked about this in the previous time.
Yeah.
On the Calm Mind podcast. But we were able to just move on. Why don't you think we were able to move on? I think because honestly, I feel like this now we're actually doing normal Calm Mind, where we're introspective about our feelings, talking about therapy. I don't know.
I'm sorry. Are they threatening you, my audience?
No, nobody's threatening. They're allowed to do whatever they want, and they're not doing anything bad. If that's obviously it's their genuine opinion. It's not like they're following you just because, they're your viewers or whatever. But because honestly, there's this huge disconnect in terms of, it's like this is how it is always online nowadays in any thing where it's like, if I have the positive opinion on something that in general people think is negative, now I feel like
you've got to defend it.
I have to defend it, and I am wrong. Like it feels like, because we're just talking about experience. We're not talking about like, because half of what you said was subjective, like the art style, the whether or not you care for the plot stuff that's happening. Because obviously, if it was a plot that you care about, what would be the problem with that? You know, and what would be the problem of encountering those plot points and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, if you're like really into that, then like great. That's it. I
just felt, not because you were gaslighting me, I was in gaslight mode, where it's like, this is surreal. How does he not feel? How is this happening? Like, how does he not feel what I feel? And this is the thing that we've talked about in the podcast about a lot of times. It's not your fault or anything. You're literally just saying what you thought of the game, and vice versa. And maybe you felt like, why?
Well, I mean,
did you feel gaslight? Yeah, you felt gaslight by me.
This is but that's it, because it's like, well, no, but you must understand how I feel.
But the difference is that I'm also reading the chat right now, and the chat is really like agreeing with you. And
I'm not reading the chat.
I shouldn't have been reading the chat, and because I'm reading the chat, I'm feeling really gaslit. Because like,
oh man,
because like, again, it's not chat's fault, but it's like, I felt like everybody's like, they're agreeing with like what I don't agree with. And I literally don't understand why. But it's mostly because people are like, half of what people in chat aren't talking about the first area. They're literally just talking about the game in general. And their perspective. So like, they're just being negative on Scarlet and Violet in general, which you're allowed to be. But like, we're talking about a specific aspect. Nobody's being critical. Nobody's like only focusing on that aspect. They're like, nah, Scarlet and Violet sucks. You can't explore anything. But we're not talking about that. Like, the first area, I think for first area is as explorable, and even more so than other Pokemon games. But whatever, that we disagree on.
I don't disagree that, like, especially on my first time playing it, that area just after the lighthouse is really cool. The area with the gate, like, to the legendary Pokemon, it's just obviously on a replay, and I'm playing it quite soon after having played it. It's like, oh, okay, I know I've got like another half hour of like, so I just want to get to that and do that. But first of all, if you enjoyed it, right, that's great.
I don't know
why.
That's the point.
That's the whole point.
The problem is, like, when you enjoy a game that people are very critical of, and I'm critical of it too, but just not that aspect. I don't. You feel like, what is wrong? Like, what I do wrong? But I'm playing it literally just like any other Pokemon game, just like you, which is
And
I'm literally, it's giving me exactly what I came for when it comes to Pokemon games.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to now enjoy it less? Like, am I supposed to actually agree with it? Like, am I supposed to like see the logic to that and like agree with it?
I'm sorry, because like, whether me or the chat have like made you feel this way, you enjoyed the game and you're happy with these elements. Good. Don't let anyone else take that away from you. Like, that's good. Don't become like us. That's awful.
But then they're like, no. But if you have to be, that you're the problem now. If you enjoy it, and it's like,
no, not at all.
How
like,
could you
at the end of the day,
what sucks about it? It's like, I can see it. It's just, those aren't the things that I prioritize in the video game, in playing a video game. So I just don't.
It doesn't matter. No, that's fine. That's good.
When I'm playing Scarlet and Violet, I'm like, wow, this is the best first area. I get to explore and see all these Pokemon, see them in the world, compared to any other Pokemon game other than Legends Arceus, which had a 2-hour tutorial that I just did, that was unexpectedly boring.
Yeah.
And not like I'm a Pokemon fan, so I did enjoy, like, I enjoyed the dialogue of Legends Arceus, but it's like, when I was playing Legends Arceus, I'm like, oh no, this is the game that everybody's now going to be playing. A lot of non-Pokemon fans are going to be playing this game for the first time, because they're like, oh, this is the first open world Pokemon game, and they're going to judge it. So I'm like, so I was a little more critical of the tutorial of Scarlet and Violet, because I'm like, oh no, they're not going to like that. Even though I'm okay with it, I'm like, oh no, they're not going to like it. I hope they don't hate this game. And they honestly, a lot of people did hate the first 2 hours of Legends of Arceus. Again, I've watched a lot of playthroughs of Legends of Arceus and Scarlet Violet. People liked the opening of Scarlet Violet way more. But whatever. That's just, who cares about that? That's more.
Do you know what I think Well, first of all, I see someone at least saying I agree with Ron, and I'm sure there are those
they're
other...
no, they're just saying it to move on. I don't think they're... it's the opposite. They're trying to patronize me, I assume.
No, I'm sure not. I think what happened there, if I might make an observation, and I agree, this is really what the podcast is actually about. It's not about us debating games. It's about us talking about like our feelings and our thoughts and that kind of thing. I think what happened there, and this is a really common thing, this is like how arguments happen in friendships as well, is I had a point of view, you had a point of view. When you expressed your point of view, and this is what, rather than... that's interesting. Yeah, so I can see where you're coming from. This is where I disagree. I immediately launched into, no, I totally disagree, and here's why. And then when you're not hearing me, I'm like, I'm not being heard. And then when but you're getting frustrated because I'm not hearing you, and I'm not being heard. So you become that, and then you hit that point where you're like, hang on, why are we specifically talking about this again? And you have to trace back and sort of like undo. And what happens is you're debating. Yes, with facts, but from a place of emotion where your facts aren't necessarily going to be heard, like both of us. And I think that's what obviously what's nice is that we're like adults who can talk and like communicate that to each other after the fact. But yeah, no, I agree. I think things when the argument started about, or the debate started about Scarlet and Violet and sort of became about something a little bit different. You know what I mean?
It wasn't even a debate in the beginning. It was more like this dissonance of experience.
Yeah.
Which we just don't... Like, we'll talk about this on our own time together, because, like, there's literally no... what's the point of talking about completely different experience that a person did not feel, that the other person did not feel? Like, I can't make you feel what I felt. Like,
this is something that comes up on the podcast. By the way, for those of you listening for the first time, potentially, the podcast, this is something that comes up a lot, right? We have discussions, and a lot of the points are either I'll have a view on something, or you'll have a view on something, and it's just trying to understand another person's point of view. I think that's what's nice about our friendship, is we like a lot of the same things. We love a lot of the same things, but we have very wide, I think, views on various aspects of various franchises. I think we like the same
things for different reasons. Honestly.
Yeah. And so that's what's always been really interesting about our discussions and how the podcast started, was really like, we have the most fascinating discussions because we love the same things for different reasons. And sometimes we even dislike the things that the other person likes. And then that's where it's like, but how if you're a fan of this thing, how can you...
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I get it.
That's why, like, if I was disagreeing, if I was talking to someone else, it would have been a completely different argument. I wouldn't even argued, because it's like, oh, they just don't like the thing that I like, and okay, so it's okay, it's fine. But you literally like Pokemon and have experienced all the other Pokemon games, and to me, it's like, if you like Pokemon, why wouldn't you like the beginning of Scarlet and Violet? Which I have to find out why someone wouldn't, if they enjoyed all the other Pokemon games. I think one difference is also, Dusty Gogo brought it up in the chat, which is the difference between liking an art style and liking the graphics. So, for example, even though, which is weird, because I prefer the art style of Sword and Shield over Scarlet and Violet, but I don't, whatever. The point is that you don't like the art style of Scarlet and Violet and the graphics.
Yes. Yeah. That's where I'm at.
You're okay with the graphics and art style of Legends of Arceus?
Yes. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate the art style of Scarlet and Violet. There is stuff there I really enjoy, but a lot of it I'm distracted by the graphical side. So
okay, that's what I'm saying. So, like, if the graphics were okay in Scarlet and Violet, I'm sure you would like the first route. But you're noticing all the pops and the glitches and whatever.
Yeah.
Which I was not at all. And I recorded footage, like for my review, I recorded footage of the first route, and I'm like, wow, this is beautiful stuff. And there was no popping in. Maybe there was, if you watch that footage, you would notice it. But like, I'm gonna actually show you some of the footage of Route 1. But you were literally just there. But like, how are we I mean, this is the same thing when yesterday we were testing audio for the podcast, because there there were audio problems, and I'm noticing this problem in the audio that Toby is not, and vice versa. And it's like, it's so weird when another person does not sense the same exact audio visual thing.
To be clear to the chat, you were completely right. Because eventually I was like, oh, maybe it's this. And I clicked something, and then you were like, yeah, it sounds great. What did you do? And I'm like, oh, I just undid the thing that I had done to mess it up. But I just couldn't hear that problem. It didn't... it didn't persist. And once the problem was undone, it was like really clear that, oh my goodness, yes, there was a problem before. But it's like until then, I was just like, no, this sounds good. This sounds fine. Which was really, obviously, must be really frustrating for you because you're like, well, I can see the problem. I can hear the problem. It's right there.
That's the kind of things that like frustrate me. Obviously, I understand why, and I don't like engage in debates when this happens. But it's more like if we don't like the same kind of music, like if I'm listening to a song that I'm completely in love with, and the other person's like, I hate this actually. Like, and it's nothing offensive. It's not like it's hard death metal, and it's not trap music or something that is like relatively. I mean, trap is very popular, but something that isn't pleasant to most people. Like if I'm literally just playing a normal pop song that is like even pleasant to my parents, and let's say play it to Toby, and Toby would hate it, I do not understand that dissonance, because it's like, and same thing with art style, same thing with things that are just like unfathomable, like experience of a Pokemon game. I just can't. I have to learn how to be okay with that feeling, I guess. Which is funny because you're the autistic.
Oh, go on. Yeah. In the chat we have Sloth has said, oh no, I didn't mean it like that. I really do agree with you. So there are people out there who are just, and yeah, obviously the chat who are on my videos where I broadcast these feelings are going to be the ones that line up more with what I say. And I think that's the frustration with online when it seems like everyone hates something and you like it, and you're like, oh, why do I have to defend the fact that I like it? You don't. The issue is of course when you enter a space like say Reddit or 4chan or Twitter, where the same bubbles of people are, if they've decided they're opposed to your viewpoint already, and those are the talking spaces of the internet, and it's like, this is horrendous. Like, why can't I just enjoy the thing and have it be enjoyed? And the truth of the matter is, you should, you don't need the permission of someone else to enjoy a game. If you enjoyed it, you enjoyed it. That's the point. And like, yeah, I'm really glad that you do, because like, the worst case scenario would be the game comes out and no one enjoys it, or no one enjoys any element of it. That would of course be the worst case.
Well, to be fair,
flops.
Most people enjoyed it. A vast majority of people did enjoy it.
Yes, yes,
when
they
it's
did.
time to be critical, then they're like, yeah, this is not a well-made game.
Yeah.
I think the difference is when you brought up the first part of Scarlet and Violet, I was ready to be like, oh yeah, isn't this at least the part that we can all agree on? Because it's like,
right.
But it seems like, again, it's like you include the negatives of the entire game in that point, which is like the graphics, all the flaws of the game.
Yeah, I would.
You were also being critical of it during the first area.
Yeah.
And when we had this debate a few minutes ago, I was stripping away the flaws of the entire game because we're just talking about the first area. I'm comparing the first area to the other game, to other first areas, not the entire game and how the game executes the first area.
From that window, yeah, I can see why you would. I can agree with you actually. Like, yeah, I see that. But no, for me, it makes sense to include those things because those things are present. That's like factors into my experience.
But here's the thing. Wait, you loved Area Zero, right?
I do like Area Zero.
Okay, well, here's what's funny. Area Zero is the only place that lagged for me. Like, other than like the forest and like tack trees, all the classic places that lagged. Yeah. Area Zero is one of them. So,
interesting.
When I was watching, honestly, it was lagging for playthroughs, but they weren't noticing it. But when everybody's like, wow, Area Zero is like the best place in the entire game, even though, for example, it still has the problems that all the other areas have.
Yes, it does.
But you're able to overlook it because of the other aspects.
It's got banging music. It's an incredible setting, unlike anything that I've seen anywhere else. Yeah,
so I was able to do the same thing for, let's say, the first area, I guess, because for me, the first area, sense. I really did enjoy the art style and the art direction, and even the events that happened. I liked the art, like encountering Arvin. He was mysterious. Sure. I liked encountering the legendary. That was because I liked the legendary a lot, and I mean, those are the only things that happened, and the other things were standard, like battling your rival. That always happens in the first location. I honestly do like the what's called the set design of the first area. I like the houses. I like how they look. I like the flowers and the Pokemon and flying around. In Poco Path, you look in a tree, you see fletchlings, you see the dangling, sleeping spider Pokemon that I forgot the name of.
Dupida. Yeah.
Not.
No, not Dupida. Tarantula. Yeah.
Tarantula.
That's it.
You just said it so confidently that it was funny.
Divider, yeah.
Tarantula. You see Hoppip flying around. There are a lot of Pokemon that you kept on, little Pommies that you're walking into, little I keep on forgetting the name of Spupa's pre-evolved form. But that one.
Yep.
So there are a lot of Pokemon doing their own thing in the source area, and there's also like ledges that you can hop off and on, balls that you can find. So, I mean, everything that I want from a first area and more, I was given. Let's not talk about your experience, because that was just...
That's fine. No, that's good. I'm glad.
That's how we should have done it. I should have just said my thing, you should have said your thing, and then moved on.
We made this into one of the longer episodes of the podcast. So
we didn't even generate a Pokemon yet.
Well, we're going to do that now, I think, as we were...
And we prepared a whole segment.
To talk about. We got a whole segment, but do we push the segment to next week so that people tune in next week so that you know that we're going to do the shipping thing next week? I think that's what we should do. We should do the generator Pokemon now, and then...
That sucks.
But we can talk about that. I got loads of stuff we can talk about on that. And I think it would extend the podcast out way too long. Okay. But we can talk about it if you really want now, but it'll still be relevant next week.
No, because I have a lot... I mean, I don't know if it's a lot to talk about, but it's like I had a decent segment.
Yeah. So what do you want to do? It's up to you.
Just generate. Regardless, we're generating a Pokemon, so we'll see.
Let's generate a Pokemon and see where we're at.
Timber.
If
you're new to the podcast, 95% of the time we generate an unpopular Pokemon for some reason, and we always try to put that Pokemon in the thumbnail, and that hurts us.
Have we not generated Timber before?
We generated Girder.
No, did we actually?
We generated Girder. Oh.
I think we should use one of our magical reuses, because we've not done that before.
We have not done it.
We haven't done that in we were going to give ourselves one every 10, and we've only used it once. And also, we've already. If I start talking about Timber, I'm going to say the exact same things I said in the Girder episode. So yeah, true. Let's generate a new Pokemon.
Okay, yeah, we're allowed to do this. We established the rules. You guys were there.
We did establish those rules.
What is this? We never get a popular Pokemon. No, it's a popular. It's one of my. It's like my top 10 least favorite Pokemon, but it's not like super unpopular. It's just nothing special. Sunflora.
If it's one of your top 10 least favorite Pokemon, that's because you are generally a more positive Pokemon person. This Pokemon's gonna suck.
No, that's the thing. It's like Sunflora.
Okay, yeah. Hey, that really reminds me of the graphics in Scarlet and Violet.
Oh my god. Oh,
no. Yeah. No, Sunflora. Yeah, cool. Yeah, that is kind of an unpopular Pokemon in general. I feel like... Because Sunkern's obviously such a weak baby Pokemon with low stats. And then in that in Johto, it's like, hey, the Sunstone, you could use it on your Gloom to get a Blossom, or your Sunkern to get a Sunflora. And it's like, I'll take Blossom any day of the week. Why is it one of your least favorite Pokemon?
It's literally just a flower and doesn't add anything to the concept of a flower with a face, which is very overdone.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I feel like in Pokemon Colosseum, one of the last Pokemon you can get is a Shadow Sunflora. And I've never been less excited for a Shadow anything. It's just like...
I'm okay with that concept. To be fair, there are a lot of Pokemon that don't do anything, that are just a thing that has been done before. I mean, we have a lot of Gen 1 Pokemon that are just a rat, a bird, whatever, right? But Sunflora, the exact drawing of a Sunflora can be, you can insert it in any franchise, and that's just a flower with a face in that franchise. While if you took a Rattata or a Pidgey, they are very distinctly Pokemon. They have the Pokemon eyes. I mean, Rattata has a different color.
Yeah, I agree.
There are no purple rats in other franchises, unless they are magical rats. And so it exists in Pokemon World, and it makes sense in the Pokemon World. But Sunflora is literally just, it's literally, come on.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yes.
And it's not a reason to hate it. That's just based on my priorities when it comes to designing a Pokemon. That's one of them.
That's interesting.
Obviously, I understand why you would like a nice flower. Who wouldn't like a nice flower?
It's really interesting to me, because that shows the differences in the way that we would do, and sort of, again, part of your ethos that I'm familiar with for Pokemon is that you can find something to like about pretty much any Pokemon. The fact is that Sunflora to you is a Pokemon that just doesn't have a lot going for it. Whereas, like, I feel like you don't have Pokemon that you actively dislike, right?
Well, even my least favorite Pokemon, Aromatisse, has a lot going for it, actually. It's just that because it has a lot going for it, it's annoying that the execution was so bad. That's what's frustrating with me. And I think it makes me uncomfortable. I like sexy Pokemon, actually. I don't like when a non-sexy Pokemon tries to be sexy.
Whoa.
Like I'm okay with Lopunny, and I'm okay with and I really like Salazzle and Lopunny, but like when a Pokemon that isn't designed to look attractive acts like it's trying to be attractive, I don't like that.
Like a little muck giving you a wink?
Yeah, if there's like a muck giving me a wink, I wouldn't enjoy that.
It's not. Really? Because I think it would be warm place to be as a muck.
Yeah,
cuddle you.
I wouldn't
poisonous
be
as well.
to it.
Toxic.
Whoa there, Ron.
Whoa.
Says the chat.
Yeah, no, sorry, I'm getting all flustered. I think with Sunflora, it's a Pokemon that, like, yeah, I wouldn't put it on my bottom 10 list, but not because I don't think it's like not got a lot going for it, or that it's quite boring and simple, sort of like you've illustrated. It's just because I don't actively dislike it either. For me, it is that definition of like what is truly mid. It's just okay.
For me, that's
I didn't think about it.
For me, that's Pokemon like Tauros, or at least the Cantonian Tauros. And I've grown to like it because it's really strong. But for me, it's just the Pokemon that are like very simple, but at least have something different. Like even Tauros has 3 tails. That's pretty snazzy. But like Sunflora is literally a sunflower with a face. But I mean, again, you can find exceptions. You can find, like, to my own rule, you can find examples of other Pokemon that you would expect based on that rule that I would hate, but I don't. That's just how Pokemon is, and it sucks. It really Pokemon is that thing where it's like you cannot agree on these subjective art things. Whether it be music, design, art style, you just cannot.
Why does that suck?
So I guess I'm the kind of person that wants people to agree. Not specifically agree with me. Specifically just, let's all agree on it. Like, I'll change my view if we all agree on it. It's just like, I want some peace and love.
Peace in our time and love and, yeah. And
it's frustrating when something that you think could give peace and love, like friendly monsters in a video game, you assume, oh, we can all agree. Like, there's nothing. It's not too serious. Let's agree on it. But no, it'll be the most toxic kind of disagreement that you can ever have. And that's what I hate. That's what makes me frustrated.
I've always wondered. This is a thought experiment, right? So you take a new planet Earth, and you take one person. And then you take another like-minded person and you plop them on the planet with them. And then they have to start working out how they're going to build out society or whatever. Like, how many people do you have to add before... And you cannot add a new person until, like, a decision has been come to as to, like, how... Like, how many people would you... Before you... Is it, like, just, like, 4, 5, 10 before, like, decisions just can't be made unanimously anymore? Because people just are. So even like-minded people, like us, like, it just, that's the variety of life, I suppose.
That's why I hate when people agree with everything that, let's say, a fanatical, like, politician or, like, just any kind of demagogue or any person that is the head of some kind of ideology, when they agree on, like, 90% of what this guy says. I don't believe you. Not that I don't believe you. I believe that you believe that. But I think that's not a healthy thing. And
I agree, yeah.
So I get it, like, when it's... Because when it has to do with humanity, yes, we're going to disagree on literally everything, and I'm not going to be frustrated about it because, like, yeah, you're humans, but, like, when it's, like...
Yep.
Like, let's say
it's
you're
like
gonna
Pokemon.
When it's literally just Pokemon, it's like... Why does everybody have to have just such an extreme opinion on... I mean, including me.
Because there's
some of them.
So many of us, right? Like, I think it's just a numbers game. Don't get me wrong, though. And this is interesting because you said this, like, when it comes to, like, a politician or a demagogue and someone's like, yes, I agree with them, I will follow them to the ends of the earth, I agree with everything they say. And you're like, that is unhealthy. Statistically, though, there's got to be a handful of people that really do, in a healthy way, have come to the conclusions that line them up with those same other people. Surely there's just got to be, like, a couple of people out there who, like, it actually does make sense that they would think the exact same thing as the, you know, and similarly, like, there's got to be Pokemon fans out there who line up and agree up with you on like 95% of everything you would ever, any opinion you could ever have on anything to do with Pokemon. Which is, by the way, it's quite a large amount of things, right? Because it's not just like each individual Pokemon, their design, it's the art styles, it's the graphics, it's the like pacing of the games, it's the character motivation. What, like, you could, there's like a million things in Pokemon for us to have opinions on. And so I just think because of that wide variety of things, that it's an inevitability that we actually probably won't agree on 100% on everything for the same reasons on all of them. It just can't be, right?
Yes, and I mean, and we all played Pokemon for completely different reasons, but that's what was so frustrating about when we were talking about Poco Path and whatever. It's because, like, these games are so similar. Each game is literally the same thing. So it's easy to judge, especially a first area. And so when we introduced this topic, I'm like, wow, this will be easy to not change his mind, but like to find an agreement. But we really disagree on literally everything about that. Even though other games have similar aspects, like Sword and Shield are really the same, but I assume you enjoyed, I know that you said that it's the exact same thing, but I assume you enjoyed the beginning of Sword and Shield more than Scarlet and Violet.
I think I did, yes.
So from everything to Motostoke, you enjoyed more than from everything to Messagoza. From the beginning to Messagoza. And it's
yes,
like,
I think so.
And it's like, we're going to have to just talk about that off podcast in depth, about like how one by each aspect or not, because that would be stupid.
Because I think we already hit the crux earlier. I said, like, I would agree with you if I'm viewing it through the lens that you're viewing it from, which is that the
graphics and art style.
You're taking out all of that stuff. You're just sort of doing it based on that thing. But like, for me, like, I don't know how I could be more objective about that, because the only framework I've got is the framework in which I'm playing it. So I guess my question to you is, like, how do you...
Because I don't... Oh, okay, so Pokemon, I play less than the average person. So my experience of Pokemon is in my head. You understand? Which is to the detriment of this debate in the audience, which is like, you only have your opinions on these games based on... You literally just played them.
Yeah.
Well, to me, it's like, I'm... Like, oh, what's my opinion on the music in this part of the game? Or what's my opinion on this character outside of the game itself, outside of just playing the game? You know what I'm saying? What's my opinion on this Pokemon outside of the game and how it could be used? What's my opinion of this town outside of how I experienced this town, but more like, you know, like if I picture the town, if I look at it, you know, on my PC, on, you know, a picture of it, that's my opinion, instead of just what's my opinion of this game when I play it. Because I'm not playing it.
Right.
That's only 50 hours of my...
So that's
50 hours of my year is going to be me playing Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah.
But...
So that's where we've hit the issue, is really, like, it's a case of, like, if I'm viewing it through your lens... I mean, and to be fair, that's true of basically any argument, to be fair. Like, if I was viewing it through your lens. But no, what you're saying is, you were asking me about the first area kind of more in a vacuum relative to the other things. For me, there's too much emotion tied up with those other things, and there's too much there. So, like, I've not been able to separate that. And so, to me, it's like, well, why wouldn't I factor in that? Like, that's, you know, obviously those things, also the things that bother me, just didn't bother you anyway. So even if you added those things back in, you still wouldn't be where I am, because it just didn't bother you in the same way, if at all.
Two examples that I can think of, one from Generation 7, one from Generation 5, is, for example, Generation 5 Pokemon. I'm going to look at Generation 5 Pokemon and be like, wow, look at all the Pokemon that I like. But then there's going to be other people who, their opinion on the Generation 5 Pokemon is based on their experience in the game, which is, oh, I can't catch non-Generation 5 Pokemon, and I can only catch Generation 5 Pokemon, so now I hate them because I don't like this variety. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't like this group of Pokemon. But for me, it's like, that's not how I judge the Generation 5 Pokemon. Is I take them out of the game and individually look at the Pokemon, you know?
I see what you're saying.
Same thing with, like, the plot of Generation 7. It's like, this is a pretty good Pokemon plot relative to other Pokemon plots. But I'm basing that based on just taking it out of the game and just looking at the plot itself by itself.
Cool.
Instead of how do you experience this plot, which a lot of people don't enjoy.
So that's literally it. Like, this is hitting the nail on the head completely. This is where we've crossed wires, because it's like, I guess there was no pre-establishing, like, no, this is sort of how we're talking about it, because we didn't, And to be fair, we wouldn't really know that we're not talking about it in the same way until you have the argument. You can't know until you have the back and forth, and then you realize, hang on, look, something's not computing here. Like, what's going on? And the chain thing, and I think for a lot of people who get into arguments, is that they end up then just like, you're impossible, and like, exit. Which, I mean, obviously we're doing a show together right now, but like, I think what this podcast has been really great at, and what we both really enjoy about this is correct me if I'm wrong, is that we get to have the debate about the thing and then sort of investigate, what happened there, what went wrong, why, because, we're interested in, I think we're interested in that kind of like analysis, I guess.
Yeah, because who cares of our opinion on Pokemon? It's more about the productive,
I wish we got there quicker. I wish we got there quicker, though, because we definitely spent too much time on.
So I'm editing this episode. Should I cut out some stuff?
If you want.
Because we did go in circles for like an extra 10, 15 minutes.
If you would like to cut some bits, you're very welcome to cut some bits and play with it however you like.
Yeah, like let me explain on top of this why I think like this. Because, for example, I am not playing these games over and over again in a year or two. My experience of this is just thinking about it, looking at, things online, listening to the music, which triggers, me thinking about, let's say I'm listening to Sootopolis, now I'm thinking about Sootopolis. And I'm not thinking about Sootopolis because I'm playing Sootopolis and experiencing Sootopolis and able to critique it on a gameplay level. I'm experiencing it through thinking about it and then looking at it online and listening to the music. And outside, I enjoy Pokemon outside of only just playing it. And I assume a lot of people that aren't Poketubers, they're not now, thinking about the game after they're playing it, other than like, their favorite Pokemon and maybe their favorite music when they're listening to it once every year. But I'm constantly thinking about it while not playing it.
Yeah,
and that informs my opinion.
Your primary form of enjoying Pokemon is through the is outside of playing it, right?
Outside of playing it, so that's why I never judge Pokemon from gameplay.
That's it. That just makes sense. Yeah, that just makes sense. Well, dang. Well, dang. I'm sorry. I feel like we could have given you a warmer welcome. Not like I feel sad that you made to feel that like your opinion was wrong somehow, because that's not the case. It's not the case at all. And that's the thing I think as well. Like. People on the internet, and I'm not saying this to like roast my chat. My chat are absolutely lovely, but it is like you're listening to two Poco, like from their point of view, they're listening to two Poketubers argue about whether they effectively liked a thing or didn't like a thing, and so they're gonna lean, one way or the other, and it's much more, I guess, straightforward and binary. Whereas actually, that's not the discussion. It turns out, as we've uncovered the rocks, it's like, well, actually, no, there's technically we're not even arguing about the same thing. We're arguing kind of from a different thing altogether.
Yeah. No, there was a thing I forgot what I was going to say.
Sorry. Hashtag let Ron talk.
What was I going to say? Oh, that sucks. Well, I mean, let's continue. Let's continue for a bit so I can remember what I'm saying. I'm saying you say something. And I'll ignore it so I can think of what I was trying to say. Because what happens in a podcast when you legitimately have a thing to say, but now you're not going to take the time to think about it because you're doing a live podcast. And I guess back when we weren't doing this live, I would just edit out the lull.
You've already said you might do a little bit of editing for this one, a little bit of snippery.
I'm going to forget to do this part. It's not like I'm going to listen to the whole thing, like we did in the past. Wait, you listened to the whole thing when you were editing?
I listened to the whole thing back, but I listened to it on like 1.5 times speed. It's literally just
you can do that in Premiere? Oh, you would shorten it?
In Premiere. Yeah, no. I just hit the L button and it speeds it through.
Oh, you would press the button. Okay.
Yeah, you press it when you hit play, and you listen to it back, and that's really just so that I can hear like, did something go horribly wrong at some moment, But yeah.
Well, I don't do that because I actually edited the pacing of the show. So if you guys didn't know, whenever it was my turn to edit an episode, I would actually make the jokes land better because by either extending or taking out any silence or just the timing between when you spoke and I spoke. So I can't do that. So that's why we may be less funny in the last few episodes, but I don't think so. I think we actually had really good conversations the last 7 episodes.
I really enjoyed the last few episodes of the podcast we've done, and we're definitely, we've got more interesting stuff coming up. We're going to be talking about shipping, and not just Pokemon shipping. We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of. We've got a whole bunch of franchises, and I guess the question is for today. I should probably get back to charity fundraising, but we can either squeeze in 20 minutes now or 15 minutes now, or we could do a full bigger segment on it next week.
No, we'll do the full segment of it next week.
Let's do the full segment next week. It's a shame, but I hope that's a tease of what is to come.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say.
What were you going to say?
The thing that I do disagree and disapprove of what you did is replaying the game 2 months after. I don't think that's a good idea. Why would you replay the game when you already didn't like? If you liked it and you want to now experience the second, the other version, yeah, okay. But if you didn't like it, there is no reason to replay it within the same year because you're gonna enjoy it less because you're gonna go through parts that you don't like and you're gonna hate it even more.
I needed an idea for the stream that is something people would watch.
So I think Poketubers should not have opinions on Pokemon then. I think Poketubers should not have opinions on the gameplay of Pokemon.
I actually agree.
This is not a joke. Poketubers should not speak about the gameplay of Pokemon.
It's true, because even the process of streaming the game versus playing the game in bed, right? That is a dramatic difference into the enjoyment of the game. I've turned today into it's fun, we're streaming, I'm doing it with Phoebe, and I'm really enjoying that element. But it's turned into work, and so how can we possibly Poketubers, the people who are visually representing the franchise on YouTube, have the same opinions as the general public? We literally turn it into work. I actually agree. You are the Poketuber who I think has probably one of the healthiest relationships to the games because you don't play them much, because your enjoyment comes from not playing the games and from the exterior stuff. I actually agree with you, man, 100% on that.
I'll take it.
Well, there you go. Finally, something we can agree on.
Ron plays Pokemon the correct way. Bye!